Hey everyone, welcome back. We've got a really fascinating topic for our deep dive today.
Yeah, this should be a good one.
You guys have sent us tons of info about co-living,
Yeah.
and I think a lot of you are wondering, is this just like a trendy name for
Right.
shared housing, or are we talking about uh, something bigger here, something
Yeah.
different?
Right.
Is this just for like broke millennials, or is there something more to it?
Yeah, you pretty much summed it up there. I think it's easy to just dismiss co-living as like, oh,
Right.
that's just the latest trend.
A fad.
But the sources you sent,
Yeah.
they actually paint a more nuanced picture.
Okay.
It's not just about splitting the rent. It's about fostering a real sense of community.
Okay, so not just roommates with a cooler name.
Exactly.
So, like, what makes it different? What makes this intentional community thing different?
Well, imagine like a building that's designed to encourage interaction.
Okay.
You've got communal kitchens that actually make you want to cook and hang out, cozy, common areas, maybe even dedicated co-working spaces.
Yeah.
It's about designing a space where connection happens organically.
Okay. I like that idea.
Yeah.
So, like, built-in friend make. But let's be real. Cost is a factor here, right?
Of course.
Especially in cities where rent is just absolutely insane.
Yeah.
Does co-living actually deliver on that? Is it actually more affordable?
It can be. It can be more affordable,
Okay.
especially in those pricey cities.
Right.
But the thing is, the sources you shared, they highlight all sorts of different setups. It's not
Okay.
one size fits all.
Interesting.
You've got purpose-built communities that have a ton of amenities,
Uh-huh.
and you have more affordable, repurposed buildings as well.
You know what? I'm looking through this right now.
Yeah.
And there is this article about a co-living space in London
Oh, wow.
called the Collective Old Oak. Have you heard of this?
I have, yeah.
They've got a cinema, a spa, a library,
Yeah.
even a rooftop farm.
It's pretty amazing.
It's incredible. But get this. They offer lease terms as short as 1 month.
Wow.
And that's basically unheard of with traditional rentals.
Yeah, it's a huge draw for people who are
Yeah.
interested in co-living.
Especially people who are new to a city, maybe not sure about their long-term plans,
Absolutely.
or digital nomads who want that kind of flexibility.
Exactly, and we see that again and again in these sources,
Yeah.
this emphasis on flexible living arrangements.
That's really interesting. So
Yeah.
it's not just about splitting the rent, it's also about having options.
Exactly.
One thing that really stood out to me in all of this was the focus on, like, tackling loneliness.
That's a big one.
There's this whole section in one of the reports about how these co-living spaces,
Yeah.
they organize social events, they have shared meals, they even have workshops.
Yeah.
It's like a built-in solution
Mm-hmm.
for that feeling of isolation that a lot of people experience,
Yeah.
especially in big cities.
Absolutely. Loneliness is a huge issue.
It is.
And it seems like co-living communities are really trying to address that.
Yeah,
It's not just about living in the same building.
right.
It's about actually creating opportunities to connect with people.
I like that because, you're more likely to start a conversation in the communal kitchen
Yeah.
than you are waiting for the elevator.
For sure.
Okay, so I'm starting to see the appeal here.
Yeah.
It's like having a built-in social life, which, let's be honest, is way more appealing
Oh, yeah.
than endless swiping on dating apps. Right?
Yeah.
But let's be real, there's got to be a downside.
Uh-huh.
Sharing a living space with a bunch of people, even with all the perks, it just seems like a recipe for conflict.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, how do they even deal with that?
You're not wrong. Like, living in such close quarters
Yeah.
with other people, it's bound to be some challenges there.
For sure.
But the interesting thing is,
Yeah.
the sources you sent actually address that head on.
Okay.
Like, there's this whole section in one of the white papers that talks about how co-living spaces are mitigating those potential conflicts.
So, like, conflict resolution 101.
Exactly.
For the co-living crew, what are they doing?
Well, they really emphasize clear communication
Okay.
and setting expectations right from the start.
That makes sense.
A lot of these places have like really detailed house rules,
Yeah.
communication protocols. Some of them even have like dedicated community managers
Oh, wow.
to help mediate disputes, facilitate dialogue.
It's
It's not about avoiding conflict altogether.
Right.
It's about having the tools to kind of manage it.
So it's like having a built-in referee
Exactly.
for those inevitable roommate squabbles.
Right.
Not bad.
Yeah.
But, okay, let's talk about the elephant in the room here.
Uh-huh.
Privacy.
Right.
How much personal space can you really expect when you're living in a community setting like that?
It's a valid concern for sure.
Yeah.
But the thing is, the sources emphasize this balance
Okay.
between private and communal areas.
Good.
So you have your own private bedroom, your bathroom,
Right.
your own sanctuary.
Right. Your own space.
But you still have access to all these shared spaces.
To connect with people.
Exactly.
I'm picturing like my own little quiet retreat
Yeah.
to recharge, and then just like steps away is this bustling communal space.
Exactly.
Best of both worlds.
That's the idea.
You know, another thing that I found really interesting
Yeah.
is the potential for co-living spaces to actually boost work-life balance.
Oh, interesting.
So one of the articles profiles this co-living space in New York called We Live,
Okay.
and they've integrated workspaces like right into their design.
Wow.
So residents can basically roll out of bed and be at their office in minutes.
That's pretty amazing.
It is, and it's not just like a desk in the corner.
Right.
You have co-working spaces, meeting rooms, a cafe, even a wellness center.
Wow. So they've created a whole ecosystem.
They really have. It's like they've taken the concept of a workation
Right.
and just made it a permanent lifestyle.
Right. Yeah. Next level work-life integration.
It is, although I can see how that might not be for everybody.
Sure. Some people need that separation.
Yeah, for sure. But for those who thrive in that kind of environment,
Right.
that sounds incredible.
Yeah, it does.
You know, speaking of thriving, one of the sources talks about
Uh-huh.
the sustainability aspect
Yes.
of co-living,
It's a big part of it.
arguing that by sharing resources and reducing individual consumption,
Yeah.
these communities are contributing to a more eco-conscious lifestyle.
And the report gives some great examples
Oh, really?
of co-living spaces that have incorporated sustainable practices.
Okay. Like what?
Well, there's this co-living project in Copenhagen
Okay.
called Resource Rose.
Okay.
It's built entirely from recycled materials,
Wow.
and they have this whole system for composting food waste
Wow.
and generating renewable energy on site.
So it's a mini eco-village
Exactly.
right in the heart of the city. I love that.
Yep.
Okay, so we've talked about conflict resolution, privacy, work-life balance, sustainability.
A lot to consider.
Now I want to get into like the logistics of it.
Okay.
Because one of the sources you sent outlined some pretty detailed SOPs.
Standard operating procedures.
Yes, for managing these communities.
Right.
What stood out to you in those?
You know, I was really fascinated by how they address like both the practical and the social aspects.
Okay.
So, for example, there's a co-living space in Berlin called The Factory,
Okay.
and they have this really interesting approach to decision-making.
Okay.
They use a system called sociocracy,
Yeah.
which is all about collaborative governance.
Interesting.
It gives everyone in the community an equal voice.
Oh, wow. So it's not just about following the rules.
Right.
It's about giving the residents
Yeah.
actual ownership over their community.
Exactly.
That's really cool.
I thought so, too.
What other SOKs did you come across?
Well, one of the reports highlighted a co-living community in Seattle, and they're tackling the issue of digital overload.
Interesting. How?
They have a digital detox policy for their communal spaces.
Oh, wow.
No phones, no laptops, just pure human interaction.
That's a bold move,
It is.
especially in a world where we're constantly glued to our screens.
Right.
But that sounds amazing, like having those designated spaces
Yeah,
for tech-free connection.
absolutely.
It aligns perfectly with that whole idea of fostering genuine human connection.
For sure.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here. Conflict resolution, privacy, work-life balance,
Yeah, we have.
sustainability, community governance.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say someone's listening to this and they're like,
Yeah.
okay, I'm intrigued, but where do I even begin? Like, how do I actually find a co-living community? What advice would you give them?
Yeah, that's the big question, isn't it?
It is.
Like, it's one thing to be interested in co-living,
Right.
but actually finding the right community,
Yeah.
that's a whole other challenge.
That's a good point. So how do you even go about finding one?
Well, the good news is there are more resources now than ever before.
Oh, really?
You've got online platforms,
Okay.
directories that list co-living spaces
Okay.
all over the world.
That's cool.
You can filter by location, budget, amenities, even like the vibe of the community.
So it's like online dating,
Kind of, yeah.
but for your living situation.
Exactly.
I like that. But are there any red flags
Oh, yeah, for sure.
that people should look out for
Definitely.
when they're browsing these listings?
Don't just jump at the first one you see.
Okay.
Read reviews from past residents.
Yeah.
Visit the space if you can.
Right.
Don't be afraid to ask a ton of questions.
Like what?
What are the house rules like?
Okay.
How do they deal with conflicts?
Uh-huh.
What's the community actually like?
The vibe.
Yeah, you want to make sure your values
Right.
align with the community's values.
So finding the right co-living community.
Yeah.
It's kind of like finding the right partner.
It is. You got to do your research.
Yeah, you really do.
Make sure you're compatible.
You know, when we first started talking about this,
Yeah.
I think you were a little skeptical
Maybe a little.
about whether co-living was more than just a fad.
Mm-hmm.
Has your perspective changed at all?
I'll be honest.
Yeah.
It has.
Really?
I went into this thinking it was just another housing trend,
Right.
but I've realized that it's actually tapping into something much deeper.
Okay.
It's responding to some very real challenges that we face.
Like what?
Rising cost of living,
Yes.
loneliness,
That's a big one.
the desire for more sustainable lifestyle.
For sure. It's offering a potential solution
It is.
by changing how we think about community
Absolutely.
and connection.
It's not just about living next to each other.
Right.
It's about intentionally creating spaces
Yeah.
that encourage us to interact, support each other.
And build those relationships.
Exactly. Recognizing that we're not meant to be isolated.
We're social creatures.
We thrive in community
Yeah. And co-living gives you a way to create that
in a really intentional way.
in a meaningful way.
Absolutely.
So as we wrap up this deep dive,
Yeah.
I want to hear from you guys.
What do you think?
Would you consider co-living
Yeah.
after learning all of this?
What resonated with you the most?
Did it spark an idea?
Did it challenge a preconceived notion?
We want to hear from you.
Yeah, let us know.
Awesome. Well, that's a wrap on our co-living deep dive.
Great discussion.
We hope you guys got a fresh perspective
A new way of thinking about it.
on this whole idea.
This evolving trend.
And until next time,
Keep diving deep.
and keep those questions coming.